Hey, aren't you going to contribute more around the house if you're going to be that kind of wife? Maybe you should just leave. I sat there stunned by my mother-in-law's harsh words. Her cold, intense gaze bore into me. Francisco has us and we don't need you anymore. You always look tired and seem to accomplish nothing, chimed in my unhelpful sister-in-law with a dismissive tone. This is too much, Francisco. Don't you think your mother and sister are going overboard? I pleaded. I'm doing my best. When I sought help from my husband, he responded with a demeaning attitude. I agree with my mother and sister, Francisco interjected. I'm busy with work, and it's becoming a problem if you don't help with the chores. Besides, my relationship with the new part-time girl is progressing, and you're just baggage. Can you quickly pack and live somewhere else? Shocked by Francisco's words, I glanced at the three of them. They all seemed to blame me. A surge of rage welled up in my chest. I took a deep breath, calmed myself, and said, I understand. I need some time. My in-laws, who had once relied on me, were now falling apart. My name is Michelle, and I'm 32 years old. I work diligently both at my job and in household chores. While it's not uncommon for women to continue working after marriage, I truly love my job and strive to succeed in the company I joined right after college. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, my husband Francisco approached with a pleading look. Michelle, can you take care of this? He handed me a file crammed with receipts and bills. You should manage the cafe's finances properly. I smiled and responded, sorry, but I'm really bad at that. I met Francisco while he was working part-time at a cafe I frequented. After a few chats, we began dating and eventually talked about marriage. Now, Francisco owns the cafe, but despite his ability to run the business, he struggles with paperwork and always asks me to handle the accounting. As I sighed, my mother-in-law added, Michelle, I suddenly feel like eating Chinese food tonight. Could you rinse the rice well? Also, Mia and the kids are coming this weekend, so we need to plan their meals. Sure. I got it. I nodded to my mother-in-law's request and hurriedly left the house. Before marriage, I was excited about my new life with Francisco. However, he suggested, my mom's lonely by herself. Why don't we all live together in our big house? So now I reside with his mother. To put it lightly, she's not proficient in household chores. When we moved in, the house was a bit of a mess after my father-in-law passed away. She started living on a pension, which she mostly spends on dining out or ordering food. Francisco seems to believe that housework is a woman's job, making it my full responsibility. Francisco's sister Mia occasionally brings her kids home, and each time she does, my to-do list grows. I can't help but think that yet another chaotic weekend is approaching. Weekends, which should be precious times for recovering from the usual exhaustion, turn into moments where my sister-in-law's children ask to play or complain about being hungry. I find myself not only preparing meals in the kitchen but also entertaining the children. Then my sister-in-law drops a bombshell. Michelle, I'm getting divorced and will be moving back here with the kids next month. I'm surprised, and for a moment I'm lost for words. Really? Do you have something to say? She asks. No, I was just thinking. When are you moving? I inquire. I want to move as soon as possible. Surprised that my sister-in-law and her children will be moving in, I hope that maybe she will help, and household chores will become more manageable. While we had a normal relationship, I anticipate that this change might bring us closer and result in her contributing to the chores. Despite my positive attitude, reality has other plans. Perhaps because she grew up with my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law appears to live life devoid of housework. She spends most of her time lounging on the sofa, watching TV, and always has some snack with her. Observing her, I realize her neglect of housework might have contributed to her divorce. Now, with the added responsibility of preparing meals for her children and making lunches for kindergarten, my workload increases and my free time diminishes. I had hoped for her assistance, but it's disappointing that it turns out to be a swing and a miss. Then there comes a time when my work at the company suddenly becomes hectic. Every day, I start work early, do overtime, and return home exhausted to find the room overflowing with things, with no space to even walk. Seeing this scene each day, waves of fatigue wash over me. On top of that, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law complain, asking if dinner is ready yet or why I'm home so late when I struggle to manage household chores. They coldly remark, "Michelle, there's a mountain of laundry waiting. Don't slack off just because you're busy." I internally protest, "Mother-in-law, I'm really trying my best." But before my sister-in-law can say anything, I frequently opt to keep my thoughts to myself. "Michelle, are you standing up to your mother-in-law? That's a bit bold, but for the sake of the children, please try a little harder to make homemade meals," suggested my sister-in-law. I couldn't help but respond, "If you have so much free time at home, why don't you help out once in a while?" While doing household chores, I overheard Francisco's sister saying, "Haha, Francisco owns a store, so Michelle doesn't need to work, right? If that's the case, maybe you should try a little harder at home." Behind their words, I felt the mounting pressure that I should be doing more. That night, at the peak of my stress, I decided to speak my mind to friend Isco. "I've been so busy lately, and neither your mother nor your sister is helping out with household chores. It's really hard," I confessed. "Michelle, you're not speaking ill of our family, are you?" Francisco's eyes sharpened a bit, and I braced myself. "That's not what I mean, but it's hard for me to do everything by myself. If you helped out once in a while, things would be a little easier for me," I explained. "I'm busy managing the store. It's different from a regular job. Housework is the wife's responsibility, right?" Even though disappointed by his response, I sat and pondered. A good idea suddenly popped into my head, and I silently pumped my fist. I immediately grabbed my smartphone, opened my favorite online shop, and started adding necessary items to the cart. After completing the purchase, I went to bed satisfied. A few days later, my new electronic household appliances, which would become my lifelines, were delivered to our home. The latest washing machine, a cleaning robot that reaches every corner of the room, and a rice cooker that cooks delicious rice without much effort. Each of them was a savior, making my daily life just a little bit easier and more enjoyable. While setting up the new washing machine, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law suddenly appeared with surprised expressions. "Why, Michelle, you got such a fancy washing machine. But the old one was still good, wasn't it?" Smiling gently, I replied, "The old one took a bit too long, and I heard this new one shortens the laundry time." Their gaze then shifted to the cleaning robot and the new kitchen appliances. "See, I've also upgraded these," I said, showing them off a bit. "All these things, clean robots and convenient cooking appliances. Michelle, come over here for a moment," my mother-in-law said, inviting me inside the room. Seeing the slightly surprised expressions of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I smirked to myself. Francisco sat next to me, and the four of us began our discussion. "Why did you buy so many things?" My mother-in-law raised her voice. "Do you really need all these new appliances? Isn't it just because you want to make things a bit easier?" She continued, "Well, I thought it would be nice if things around the house could run a bit more smoothly." I replied with a slightly troubled expression. My mother-in-law chimed in, "Relying too much on machines, aren't we?" The sister-in-law waved her hand, but I responded, "The appliances we had can still be used." "Francisco is working hard managing his store. Maybe you should be more frugal." Francisco nodded in agreement with his sister, and in a quiet voice, I murmured, "Maybe you're right." There was a hint of anger in my mother-in-law's eyes, and I stumbled over my words. "Are you even considering our household?" "I really am, but I'm just a bit exhausted," I replied. My mother-in-law raised her voice, exclaiming, "Enough. I can't believe you're our daughter-in-law." My sister-in-law, with a disgusted look, added, "I'll watch over Francisco. We don't need someone like you here." When I looked at Francisco, he said coldly, "I understand what Mom and Sis are saying. It's a bit difficult to have a wife who doesn't do housework." Looking at Francisco's face, my heart felt heavy. He continued with a cold smile, "I have my own store, so I decide how to use my money. But being with someone who spends on anything and everything might be difficult." I was shaken by his words. But I looked into Francisco's eyes and counted to 10. He added with a hint of cruelty, "Also, I've noticed things have been going well with that new part-time girl. She's more attractive than you are now. Maybe it's time for you to pack up and find a new place to live." A fire of anger surged within me, though I didn't voice it. Taking a step back and calming myself, I replied after a deep breath, "All right, I'll look for a new home that's better." "Finally, you understand. I'll feel much better without you around," he said smugly. Francisco signed the divorce papers that night, and I moved to a nearby weekly rental apartment with just the bare essentials and the divorce paper. No one tried to stop me when I left. Did they ever really care about me? After submitting the divorce papers at the city office, I found a stylish apartment to start fresh. During this time, an unexpected opportunity came my way, a promotion I had been putting off because of my family situation. I seized this chance and began working as a section manager. Every day, as I dedicated myself entirely to my job, I felt a renewed sense of accomplishment. In the midst of these busy days, my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was my former mother-in-law. I thought we had nothing to do with each other anymore, right? Without checking her message, I swiped to dismiss the call. My new life had begun, and I wouldn't look back at the past. A year flew by. One weekend, as I was relaxing in my room, listening to my favorite music, my phone rang again. To my surprise, it was my former mother-in-law. Wondering what she wanted after all this time, I picked up. "Hello, is something wrong?" I asked. She hesitated for a moment and then asked, "How's your new life?" Despite her probing tone, I replied cheerfully, "It's great. I love my new apartment and work is going smoothly. I even got promoted and am living freely." "That's good, Michelle. Can you come back home?" she asked. Taken aback, I blurted out, "Why?" "We're struggling financially." I thought to myself I knew it, and responded cautiously, "Francisco's store only makes about $1,000 a month, right?" "You know about that?" she asked. Yes, Francisco's store wasn't doing well. I was fully aware of its financial situation since I handled all the accounting. But he pretended to be the successful owner without understanding the real state of his business. It was almost laughable how oblivious he. I handled all the finances and procurement, so of course I sensed her shock. "You knew and didn't tell us. We had no idea you were doing so well in such a big company, or that you were contributing so much to the household expenses," my former mother-in-law exclaimed. I admitted, yes, I contributed more than $3,000 every month. Thanks to that, you all managed. The truth was I used my salary to bridge the gap in Francisco's business losses. He seemed completely unaware of the situation, and after I left, it seemed reality hit hard. "Michelle, can you please come back?" she asked. Curious, I inquired, "So, how's Francisco's store doing now?" She sighed, "We might have to close soon, and the part-time workers keep quitting." With an inward smirk, I commented on his slightly sloppy management style. It's hard to keep it going for long, isn't it? His little bit of pride doesn't help, not doing proper work. I mean, how many women out there do you think would be willing to support a guy like that? My former mother-in-law was momentarily at a loss for words. I continued somewhat sarcastically, "Wait, I'm a bit busy now since you left. The house is a mess, it's chaotic with things everywhere." Confused, I asked, "Wait, what do you mean?" She described the disarray of their home, with belongings scattered everywhere, looking like a storeroom. Without anyone to cook, they were eating out, which was costing a lot. The washing machine broke down, and it seemed like there's no room in the budget to buy a new one. "Actually, the appliances that you took back, I was really relying on them," my former mother-in-law admitted. Puzzled, I asked, "Huh? Why is that?" "Those were for my convenience. Besides, I bought them myself, so it's okay for me to take them back, right?" She reluctantly agreed, "Yeah, I guess so. But I never realized housework was this challenging." With a firm tone, my former mother-in-law added, "With 3 adults in the house, how can it be that hard? What are friends Isco and your daughter doing?" A hint of fatigue could be heard in her voice. "As for Francisco, his staff members have been quitting and sales have plummeted. As soon as he found out, he became really downcast and has just been lazing around at home. But Francisco used to spend his money from the store without any restraint, right? On top of that, Mia doesn't help at all. She doesn't do anything around the house and even gets her allowance. To be honest, living on just my pension for the three of us is really hard, she continued. I responded with a hint of sarcasm. Mia once told me that I was unnecessary because she was there. My former mother-in-law desperately said, Michelle, we're really in trouble. Living on just my pension for the three of us is quite tough. Firmly, I stated, I have no intention of returning to that house. It must be hard living with all that baggage. She seemed to be at a loss for words. Seeing her like this made me feel a bit sorry for her. But as I was about to hang up, my former mother-in-law seemed eager to say something. Michelle, I'm really sorry. Can you reconsider? Her voice sounded a bit exhausted. I replied, I wonder if we can ever spend days together with smiles again. Was it that hard without me? I asked with a mix of surprise and calmness. After a short pause, my former mother-in-law took a deep breath. Yes, there's actually an issue with the property tax. We might have to let go of the house. I see, but I really don't want to get involved anymore. Decide what you're going to do with your family. I hung up without waiting for her next words. After that, I set it up so I wouldn't receive any more calls from her. In my room, holding my favorite mug filled with aromatic coffee, I enjoyed my time alone, looking at the outside scenery. A smile spontaneously appeared on my face. A few months later, when I passed by the cafe where Francisco used to work, I noticed the place was now quiet and empty. Recalling its past liveliness, I felt a bit nostalgic. It seems they really closed the shop. While walking around the old town, I became curious about my former in-law's house and saw a sold sign. Coincidentally, I bumped into an old neighbor in town. According to her, those three had quickly sold their house and moved to a small apartment nearby. In their new home, there were always loud arguments and even the smell of garbage. It seems the neighbors are quite bothered, and it has become a bit of local gossip. I thought it must be tough for them, but with a bit of effort, life can change. I wondered why they don't try as I gazed at the old house. These thoughts wandered in my mind. A lot has happened to me since then, but I'm living each day to the fullest. In fact, a handsome guy from my workplace confessed, saying, I really admire your hardworking nature. Now, we're enjoying our dates, and I'm really looking forward to what the future holds. If I get married again, I really want to be happy. I'm feeling very excited about it now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura, 24 years old. What happened to me could happen to anyone. It's been 3 weeks since Dad's heart attack. I still remember that morning, making coffee, checking my work emails when the phone rang and shattered my world. Now the house feels unbearably empty. Gone is his laughter, his silly dad jokes, and even his Sunday obsession with organizing the garage. You poor dear, you can't manage this big house all by yourself. I'll help you get everything in order, Aunt Melissa said at the funeral, her oversized designer handbag perched on her arm and a too-sweet smile plastered on her face. Before I could process her words, she moved in, with suitcases, boxes, and her teenage daughter, Amy, in tow. Mom says we should take the master bedroom, Amy announced one evening, poking her head into my room. It has better closet space. You don't mind moving to the guest room, right, Laura? My childhood room, Dad's photograph still hanging on the wall, suddenly felt smaller. But this is my room, I stammered. Don't be selfish, Laura, Melissa cut in smoothly. I'm here to help manage things. The least we can do is make ourselves comfortable. When my boyfriend James visited that weekend, he noticed the change immediately. Babe, why are all your things in boxes? Aunt Melissa thinks it's better this way, I said, avoiding his gaze. She knows how to run a household. This is your house, he reminded me. Your dad wouldn't want. Please, James, I interrupted. I can't fight right now. I'm so tired. Sarah, our neighbor, dropped by with casseroles and a worried look. Honey, I've been watching your aunt take over. Your daddy would be worried sick. But I couldn't confront Melissa. She was Dad's only sister, and I kept hearing his voice in my head. Family sticks together. Glob. Dad's lawyer, Marcus, called twice, but Aunt Melissa always answered. Laura's resting. The poor thing is so overwhelmed, she'd say before hanging up. Of course, she never passed on the messages. The house began to change. My family photos were replaced by Melissa's modern art. Amy's friends lounged by the pool while I ran myself ragged trying to keep up with Melissa's endless demands. The windows need washing again, Laura, she'd say. Oh, and don't forget to prepare dinner for 8. Amy's having friends over. When are you going to fix that dripping faucet in my bathroom? Amy would complain, scrolling through her phone as I folded her laundry. One night, I found myself scrubbing the kitchen floor at midnight because Melissa said it wasn't clean enough. Tears blurred my vision, mixing with the soapy water. I could almost hear Dad's voice in that very kitchen, teaching me how to flip pancakes. James watched helplessly as I unraveled. This isn't right, Laura, he said, his voice full of concern. Something feels very wrong about all this. I was too buried in grief and manipulation to see it clearly. At least that's what I thought, until I discovered the real agenda. It all started the morning Melissa forced me to quit my job. Over breakfast, she set her coffee cup down with a calculated air. Laura, darling, the house is falling apart. Your father would be devastated to see his pride and joy in such disarray. Don't you think it's time to focus on your responsibilities here? But I love my job, I protested. Your father left us this house to maintain, she said, her tone icy. Not for you to abandon it for some entry-level position. Besides, you seem unstable lately. Perhaps the stress is too much. Mom's right, Amy chimed in smugly. You almost burned dinner last night. Imagine if you did that during an important client presentation. That's when I began noticing things. Mail went missing or turned up already opened. My phone mysteriously reset itself, and passwords I swore I hadn't changed suddenly didn't work. Hey, what happened to my letter from Capital One? I asked one afternoon. I've taken care of all that boring paperwork for you, dear. You're welcome. Aunt Melissa's voice dripped with false sweetness. Then came Amy's weekend parties. The house overflowed with her giggling friends, leaving chaos in their wake. Laura, be a dear and clean up the pool area, Amy chirped, tossing her hair. Oh, and we're out of those cute little sandwiches you make. I'm not your maid, Amy, I snapped, unable to hold it in any longer. Mom, Amy shouted, her face twisting in mock outrage. Laura's having another one of her episodes. James came over during one of these parties. His face darkened when he saw me on my hands and knees, scrubbing spilled drinks off the patio. This has gone too far, he said, pulling me to my feet. Why is your phone disconnected? Aunt Melissa said the bill was too high. She's managing the accounts now. Managing or stealing? His voice was sharp. Have you checked your bank balance lately? That night, I tried logging into my account. Access denied. I called the bank the next morning and learned my address had been changed, new cards issued without my knowledge. The rumors began swirling. Cousin Rachel called me, concern dripping from her voice. Laura, is it true you had a breakdown at work? Aunt Melissa says you're not well. What? No, that's not true. She says you've been talking to yourself and imagining things. We're all so worried. I hung up, my hands shaking. My prescription anxiety medication had been doubled without my approval. Melissa must have called my doctor, spinning tales about my deteriorating mental health. Things reached a breaking point when I went to buy groceries. I'm sorry, miss. Your card's been declined, the cashier said apologetically. Before I could react, Melissa's saccharine voice chimed in from behind me. Oh dear, another episode, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Here, let me pay. We really must discuss your spending habits, Laura. That night, I overheard her on the phone. Yes, poor thing's completely lost it since Robert died. Thank goodness I'm here to manage everything. No visitors right now. She's too fragile. Of course, I'll handle all the paperwork. I sat in my tiny guest room, once my childhood sanctuary, now a prison cell, and stared at my reflection in the mirror. Something inside me snapped. Dad's voice echoed in my mind. Always trust your gut, glow bear. It was time to find out what they were really up to. The next morning, Sarah from next door caught me at the mailbox. Her eyes darted nervously. Laura, honey, I installed security cameras after those break-ins last month. You need to see something. The footage showed Aunt Melissa sneaking into my room at 2 a.m., rummaging through my drawers, photographing documents. That's sneaky. I bit my tongue, forcing myself to stay calm. Careful, Laura, Sarah whispered. Stay quiet for now. James was waiting in my kitchen later that day, and he wasn't alone. Marcus, Dad's lawyer, stood beside him, his expression grim. I've been trying to reach you for months, Laura, he said. Your father's will, the house, everything, it's all yours. Only yours. What? My voice shook, but Aunt Melissa said, she has no legal right to be here. The documents she's been showing people, poorly forged. Look at this signature date. Your father was in the hospital that day. My hands trembled as I examined bank statements James had gathered. Melissa had been systematically draining my accounts, setting up transfers, redirecting my inheritance. A sudden crash from Sarah's window made us jump. Amy stood frozen, her phone in hand. I was just recording us, she stammered. Like Mom taught me. Her face crumbled under the weight of her guilt. You don't understand, she whispered. Mom said we deserve this house. She said Uncle Robert promised it to her. She's going to have you committed. She's got doctor statements, fake prescriptions. Amy, I interrupted gently. Your mom is using me. And you. Tears welled up in her eyes. I know, the trust fund you promised me, it's gone. She gambled it away years ago. That's why we really came here. James squeezed my hand. We've got enough to stop her. No, I said, surprising everyone. Not yet. Over the next 2 weeks, we quietly gathered evidence. Sarah's cameras caught Melissa shredding documents and making late-night calls. James installed hidden audio recorders. Amy, racked with guilt, started slipping us information. Mom's meeting with a shady lawyer tomorrow, she whispered one night. Something about property transfers. I smiled vacantly, the way they expected me to. But in my pocket was a recording of Melissa's latest scheme, and in my heart, the certainty that Dad's legacy wouldn't be stolen. The grand finale came at our annual family reunion, held at Dad's house. Timing, everyone. Please sit. I have an announcement. Aunt Melissa stood at the head of the room, champagne flute in hand, her voice dripping with feigned authority. This concerns Laura's future care. Actually, I interrupted, standing tall, my voice steady and strong. I have something to share first. The room fell silent. Marcus emerged from the study, carrying a stack of files. Sarah stepped forward and pressed play on the TV remote. The security footage began rolling. Melissa sneaking into my room, rummaging through drawers, and photographing documents. Every forged letter, every late-night theft, every manipulative phone call was displayed for the entire family to see. That's not. Those videos are fake, Melissa sputtered, her face pale. Fake, like these bank statements. I held them up. Or Dad's forged signature. Or maybe the doctor's letters you fabricated. Amy burst into tears. Mom, you promised we wouldn't get caught. The room erupted into chaos. Aunt Rachel dropped her wine glass, shards scattering across the floor. Uncle Pete pulled out his phone, dialing his lawyer. You ungrateful little. Melissa lunged toward me, but James stepped between us, his expression unwavering. The police have copies of everything, I said calmly, and the bank's fraud department is very interested in your creative accounting. Within hours, Melissa's carefully constructed world collapsed. The police arrived with warrants, uncovering not just her schemes against me, but a trail of similar scams spanning years. At the hearing, Marcus presented a damning case. Your Honor, he began. My client's aunt attempted to steal her inheritance through systematic fraud and psychological manipulation. The defendant mortgaged her own home to cover gambling debts and used her niece as a pawn to sustain her schemes. Melissa's social standing crumbled as her secrets came to light. Amy, overwhelmed by guilt, approached me after the sentencing. Laura, I'm so sorry, she said, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know about the gambling. I didn't realize how far Mom would go. I met her gaze, my voice calm but firm. Actions have consequences, Amy. Your college fund was just another casualty of your mom's choices. With Melissa gone, I began rebuilding my life. I returned to work, earned the promotion I'd been striving for, and threw myself into restoring Dad's house. Every trace of Melissa's presence was erased, her modern art replaced with Dad's photos, his laughter and legacy reclaiming the space. Sarah helped me plant a new rose garden in the backyard. Your father would be so proud of you, Laura, she said one evening, her voice full of warmth. One evening in that same garden, James knelt before me. The twilight painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, and his voice trembled slightly as he spoke. Laura, these past months have shown me your strength, your resilience, and your heart. I can't imagine life without you. Marry me. The ring sparkled, a symbol of a brighter future, so different from the darkness we had overcome. What would you do if someone close to you was gaslighting and manipulating you while stealing your inheritance? Would you confront them immediately or quietly gather evidence like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm especially curious to hear from those who've dealt with toxic family members. How did you handle it? If you want to hear more stories about standing up to manipulative relatives and reclaiming control of your life, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Together, we can help others recognize the signs of financial and emotional abuse before it's too late. Remember, sometimes the most dangerous wolves come dressed as family sheep. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Hi, I'm Melissa, a 37-year-old real estate agent in suburban Chicago. And let me tell you, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Like, what do you do when your husband's estranged daughter suddenly shows up, claiming half of your house? 7 years ago, I met Tom at a client appreciation event. He was charming, successful, and refreshingly honest about his past. He was a divorced dad raising his son Jason alone after his ex-wife, Anna, walked out. We clicked immediately, and within a year, we were married. You've brought so much light back into our lives, Tom told me one evening as we painted what would become Jason's gaming room in our new house. I found the fixer-upper, and we pooled our savings to turn it into our dream home. I'll never forget Jason's reaction when he saw his finished room. This is seriously the coolest thing ever. Can we add LED strips to the ceiling? He asked with a grin. Jason and I have had an amazing relationship ever since. He's 16 now, into coding and basketball. And we have a weekly tradition of Sunday pancake competitions. Last week, he made a pancake that looked like his math teacher, complete with syrup glasses. But not everything has been pancakes and paint swatches. Tom's mother, Margaret, has always been challenging. Last month at dinner, she couldn't resist her usual routine. Sarah would have loved this house. Such a shame she's not here to enjoy it, she said, referring to Tom's daughter. Then she added, Anna only left because Tom worked too much. I took a deep breath and changed the subject like always. Sarah is a complicated part of Tom's past. She was 12 when Anna left, and she's 26 now. Despite my efforts to reach out, Christmas invites, birthday cards, texts, Sarah has always kept her distance. Maybe next time, she'd say, but that next time never came. Thank goodness for my support system. Yesterday, over coffee on our shared patio, I vented to my neighbor Claire. You've done everything you can, Melissa. Some people just don't want to be reached, she said. Melissa, you're literally the most patient person I know, added Jessica, my colleague and close friend, who'd stopped by with some contracts. What can I do? She's family now, I sighed, sipping my coffee. Even if every holiday dinner with Margaret is a reminder of how Sarah would have decorated differently, at least Tom has my back. Just last week, he told his mom, Melissa is my wife and Jason's stepmom. She's family. Either treat her with respect or we'll need to rethink these weekly dinners. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. One quiet Sunday morning, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood Sarah, with 2 oversized suitcases, looking nothing like her glamorous Instagram photos. Daddy, I'm home, she cried, rushing past me and into Tom's arms. My acting career didn't work out, and I need a place to stay. Before I could process what was happening, Margaret appeared as if summoned by Sarah's return, like a fairy godmother with an agenda. Of course you'll stay here, sweetheart. This is your home too, she cooed, turning to Tom. Tell her this is her home. I saw the guilt flood Tom's face as he said, Of course, princess, stay as long as you need. Later that night, I tried reasoning with Tom. We should help her find her own place. The guest room isn't a long-term solution. She's my daughter, Melissa. I wasn't there for her before, he said, shutting the conversation down. Within a week, Sarah called a family meeting. She spread papers across our dining table, her voice sharp. This house should be half mine. It's my birthright as Daddy's firstborn. I deserve a stake in the family property. I couldn't believe my ears. Sarah, Tom, and I bought this house together. We renovated the house ourselves. Oh, please, Sarah scoffed, rolling her eyes. Everyone knows you manipulated Dad into buying it. Right? Margaret chimed in, perched smugly at the dining table. It does seem convenient how a real estate agent managed to snag both my son and a luxury home. The manipulation didn't stop with Tom, it extended to Jason. One afternoon, I overheard Margaret whispering to him, "Don't you think it's weird how she tries to act like your mom? She probably just wanted a ready-made family to control." That evening, Jason barely spoke to me at dinner, and my heart broke. Then, things started disappearing. First, my grandmother's pearl necklace vanished from my jewelry box. Then, I caught Sarah rifling through our home office. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Just looking for Dad's old photos," she replied, shoving papers into her bag. The final straw came during Friday dinner when Sarah and Margaret tag-teamed Tom. "Daddy, I need a fresh start," Sarah began. "The house has so much equity, Tom," Margaret interrupted. "Refinancing would barely impact your monthly payments." Sarah needs her father's help. Tom hesitated, his guilt written all over his face. "We could take out enough for her debts and maybe a small business loan," he mused. I stood abruptly, my hands trembling. "We're not refinancing our home. This has gone too far." "You're so selfish," Sarah cried, her voice shrill. "This is why Mom left. Dad always chooses other women over his real family." I watched Tom crumble under the weight of her words, but something in me snapped. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about saving my family from being torn apart by manipulation and lies. When my diamond earrings disappeared, I decided enough was enough. With Claire's help, I discreetly installed tiny cameras throughout the common areas. Then came the email that changed everything. Subject: "You need to know the truth about Sarah. Jake Martinez." Jake, Sarah's ex from Leh, reached out over video chat. She convinced my parents to invest in her acting career and took them for $30,000. "You're not the first family she's tried to squeeze." Claire, being her usual resourceful self, helped me dig deeper. "Melissa, look at this," she said, pointing at her laptop. 2 lawsuits in California, both from former roommates accusing her of stealing their identities to take out loans. She's got over $50,000 in judgments against her. Then, one night, while reviewing security footage, I overheard Sarah and Margaret in the kitchen. "Once we get the refinancing done, we'll make her so miserable she'll leave on her own," Margaret said. "Tom will have to choose between his wife and daughter. And when she's gone, we'll convince him to put the house in your name, sweetheart. It's what your mother would have wanted." My heart stopped when I heard Jason's voice from the doorway. "What did you just say about my mom?" Sarah, oblivious, laughed later in the living room with her friends. "God, my replacement brother is such a pain. Dad only had him because he couldn't handle losing me. Poor substitute kid." That night, Jason hugged me tightly. "You're my real mom, Melissa. The one who actually stayed." The turning point came when I confronted Sarah about a missing check from Tom's business account. I found her rifling through our home office again. "Get out of my private papers," I snapped. "Private?" she retorted, shoving me hard against the desk. "This is my father's house." The cameras caught everything: her assault, her rummaging through documents, even her pocketing Tom's checkbook. Later, under her mattress, I discovered copies of forged checks totaling over $20,000. "I got her," I texted Claire. "But we need to handle this carefully." I gathered every piece of evidence: Jake's testimony, the lawsuits, the security footage, and the forged checks. The final blow came when I checked our bank statements. Sarah had already cashed 3 forged checks at different branches. Tom was in his study when I showed him the file. As he flipped through the evidence, his face shifted from shock to anger to heartbreak. "No more enabling. No more guilt," he said quietly. "Call the police." We held a family meeting that night, with Margaret and Sarah seated at the dining table. I placed the thick folder of evidence in front of them. "Before anyone speaks," I said, "you need to see this." I laid everything out: photos of Sarah stealing, video footage of the assault, the forged checks, and Jake's testimony. "You wouldn't dare use this against me," Sarah hissed. "Daddy, she's trying to turn you against me." Jason stepped forward, his hands shaking. "Stop calling him that. You don't care about this family. You only care about yourself." Tom hesitated for a moment, then pulled out his phone. Jason, show her what she said, he said quietly. Jason didn't need to be asked twice. He played the video of Sarah mocking him as a replacement child. Her voice echoed through the room like a dagger slicing through the air. Before anyone could react, my phone buzzed on the table. I answered on speaker. It was Jake. "Melissa," he said, his tone grave. "The LAPD wants to talk to Sarah about a rental scam. Turns out she took deposits from 12 families for the same property. It's all catching up to her." Sarah's eyes darted around wildly. "You're all against me," she screamed, lunging toward the pile of evidence on the table. Tom caught her by the arm, his voice firm. "That's enough, Sarah. I've seen everything I need to see." Minutes later, the police arrived. Sarah's face twisted with rage as they led her out in cuffs. Margaret, ever the master manipulator, tried one last desperate play. "I'll go to the church board," she threatened. "Everyone will know how you've destroyed this family." But Claire stepped in with the precision of a practiced lawyer. "Funny you should mention the church, Margaret," she said, her voice cutting through the room like steel. "Their annual audit found some interesting transfers from the charity fund to Sarah's accounts. Care to explain?" Margaret's perfect facade crumbled in an instant. "I was helping a family member in need. By stealing from homeless shelters." Claire shot back, unimpressed. Tom's voice turned ice cold. "Both of you, get out of my house. Now." In the weeks that followed, the fallout was swift and unforgiving. Sarah faced charges in 2 states, with no chance of probation this time. Margaret's church friends learned of her role in enabling Sarah's schemes, and her carefully cultivated social status crumbled. One Sunday, Jason smirked over breakfast. "Mom, you should have seen Grandma at church. She has to sit alone in the back row. No one will even look at her." Sarah's court date came quickly. Tom and I sat side by side as the judge read out the charges: forgery, fraud, assault, and more. The weight of her actions finally caught up to her. That evening, sitting on our porch swing, Tom took my hand in his. "I'm sorry I ever doubted you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You fought for this family when I was too blinded by guilt to see the truth." 6 months later, life settled into a new rhythm. Jason made the honor roll and started a coding club at school. Tom's business flourished, and I launched a program teaching women about real estate investment and financial independence. One day, I helped a woman buy her first house after leaving a toxic marriage. As I handed her the keys, she hugged me tightly. "How did you know exactly what I needed?" she asked. "Let's just say I understand toxic people," I replied with a smile. "Sometimes the best revenge is building a beautiful life without them." Sarah wrote once from prison, a manipulative plea that went straight into the shredder. Margaret, now living alone, lost her church position and her carefully curated reputation. Oh, we didn't look back. Sometimes you have to lose the family you thought you needed to protect the one you actually have. Reflection. What would you do if someone you trusted was secretly scheming to take everything you've worked for? Would you expose them immediately or try to protect the ones you love from the harsh truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi everyone, I'm Rosa Jones, a flight attendant with United Airlines. Ever wondered what happens when a toxic stepmother becomes so obsessed with control that she's willing to sabotage her stepdaughter's birthday? Well, buckle up because that's exactly what happened to me. This story will show you just how far some people will go to maintain their grip on power. I used to have an amazing relationship with my dad, Tom. We were inseparable, movie nights, Sunday brunches, you name it. That all changed 6 years ago when Sarah entered our lives. At first, she played the perfect stepmother, but that facade didn't last long. "Rosa, honey," she'd say with her syrupy tone, "I think it would be better if we moved the Father's Day celebration to our house instead of that restaurant you picked. Your father prefers home-cooked meals anyway." It started with subtle suggestions that always, somehow, worked out in her favor. Then came Madison, her 21-year-old daughter. Madison turned everything into a competition. "Mom, Rosa's uniform is so basic. I'd make a way better flight attendant, don't you think? I have the perfect look for it." As if juggling flights and dealing with Sarah wasn't enough, I started planning my 27th birthday party, a milestone I wanted to celebrate my way. I booked the Sky Lounge, a stunning rooftop venue with breathtaking views of the city skyline. My crew friends were just as excited as I was, especially my best friend Lily. "Girl, this is going to be epic," she said during an Amsterdam layover. "Finally, a party that's all about you. No Sarah, no drama." But of course, Sarah had other plans. It started innocently enough. "Sweetie, don't you think a sky lounge is a bit much? What about having it in our backyard? I could make it so special." When I stood my ground, her tone shifted. "Your father and I think your guest list is too exclusive. What about inviting Madison's friends? They'd love to celebrate with you." One morning, while I was getting coffee, I overheard Sarah whispering to Madison, "Don't worry, sweetie. We'll make sure your friends get invited. Rosa needs to learn she's not the only one who deserves attention in this family." That was the tipping point. Every time I mentioned the party, Sarah's gaze darkened as if she were plotting something. She even started calling my vendors behind my back to confirm details I hadn't approved. My dad, ever the peacekeeper, tried to mediate. "Honey, Sarah just wants to help. Maybe let her handle some of the planning." But I knew better. This wasn't about help. It was about control, just like every other family event in the past 6 years. My high school graduation. She changed the restaurant at the last minute. My first job celebration. It turned into a joint party with Madison's college acceptance. The final blow came during a flight over the Atlantic. I received a call from Sarah, her voice dripping with that sickly sweet venom I knew too well. "Listen carefully, Rosa. This little party of yours, it's going to be Madison's special night too. Either she's the guest of honor, or there won't be a party at all." I ducked into the galley, gripping my phone tightly. "You can't be serious." "Oh, but I am. Your father's credit card holds that venue reservation. It'd be a shame if the booking disappeared." My heart raced as she continued. "And let's not forget Madison's anxiety. You wouldn't want everyone to think you're excluding your fragile stepsister, would you? How cruel of you." I wanted to scream. Madison's anxiety only ever appeared when she didn't get her way. But Sarah wasn't finished. "By the way, what would your airline think if they received reports about your inappropriate behavior with male passengers? Or those photos of you at that club last weekend? A little editing could tell quite a different story to your boss, to your father." I barely held it together as I served drinks, Sarah's threats replaying in my mind. When I landed in London, my cousin Kim called. "Rosa, you need to know something. Sarah's already contacted the venue. She told them she's your stepmother and that she needs to make urgent changes to the reservation." "What? How do you know?" "I work at the travel agency that books events for the Sky Lounge. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. Remember Amy's wedding last year? The guest list mysteriously shrank because Sarah threatened to expose Amy's old DUI if she didn't let Madison be the maid of honor. Then my Aunt Kate called." The warning came from Aunt Kate, her voice heavy with concern. "Next, honey, be careful. When Sarah was married to my brother, before your dad, she pulled the same stunts. She blackmailed my daughter Beth during her sweet 16, threatening to tell her college about a cheating incident that never even happened." I paced my hotel room, my mind racing when my phone pinged. It was a message in the family group chat. "Madison, can't wait for our big party. Already told all my friends about our joint celebration." Another message followed. "Sarah, isn't it wonderful? The girls sharing their special day." Then came the final blow, an email from the venue confirming changes to the reservation. The guest of honor was now listed as Madison Williams. I sank onto the bed, tears stinging my eyes. But my phone buzzed again. "Sarah, just checking if you've reconsidered my suggestions for our party. I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen." Little did she know, her reign of terror was about to end. This time, I had a plan. I sent Sarah the text she'd been waiting for. "You win. You and Madison can plan whatever you want." Within hours, they had taken over everything, just as I'd expected. Madison simply must make the welcome speech. Sarah gushed to the event planner while I pretended to scroll on my phone. My best friend, Lily, posing as an assistant, quietly recorded every detail with her phone. "And we'll need to change the color scheme," Madison added smugly. "Rosa's choices are flight attendant basic." Sarah's smirk made my blood boil, but I kept my cool. Every word, every manipulative move was being recorded. Later that week, Madison slipped up big time. I was around the corner at my dad's house when she called her friend. "It's going to be epic. Mom's planned this whole speech about how I'm following my dreams, while Rose is just a glorified waitress in the sky. We're even going to play this embarrassing video from her first flight training. She'll never recover. I trembled, not with fear, but anticipation. My phone recorder caught every venomous word. The next day, my dad was in his home office when Sarah and Madison strategized in the kitchen. Thanks to the small mic I'd hidden in the fruit bowl, we captured it all. "Remember, sweetie," Sarah said, "when you make your speech, emphasize how Rose is never there for family events because of her career. Make her look selfish." "What about the slideshow?" Madison asked. "I've edited those photos from our layover in Miami. No one will believe Little Miss Perfect after they see these." What they didn't know was that my dad had quietly come downstairs for coffee. He stood in the doorway, listening as 6 years of lies unraveled. But the real bombshell came when my cousin Amy paid Sarah a visit, wearing a wire I'd given her. "Remember how you handled my stepdaughter Caitlin's graduation?" Amy prompted. Of course," Sarah bragged. "I used the same technique with Rosa. Threats, manipulation, a little creative photo editing. These stepdaughters need to learn their place. And if they don't, they lose everything," Sarah sneered. "Their reputation, their career, their family. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. I'm in charge of this family." Every word was crystal clear on the recording. The day of the party, my phone buzzed with one last message from Sarah. "Final run through tomorrow. Don't be late to your own humiliation, sweetie." I smiled, knowing the surprise that awaited her. The Sky Lounge was packed. Sarah, resplendent in a designer dress, grabbed the microphone. The chandeliers sparkled as Madison stood beside her, both wearing identical smug smiles. "Everyone," Sarah began, her voice dripping with false sincerity, "I want to thank you for coming to celebrate our girls. As you know, Madison has been struggling with anxiety, missing her beloved stepsister while Rose has been away." Across the room, I caught my dad's eye and gave a slight nod. Lily, stationed at the sound booth, pressed play. Sarah's voice filled the venue, cold and menacing. "Either Madison's the guest of honor, or there won't be a party at all. Your father's credit card holds that venue reservation. It'd be a shame it got canceled." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Sarah froze, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. Before she could recover, the recordings continued. Her threats, her schemes, and her admission to sabotaging other stepdaughters' lives. "These stepdaughters need to learn their place," Sarah's voice echoed. "I've done it before, and I'll do it again." The color drained from Sarah's face as her conversation with Amy played next, detailing every calculated move she had made to destroy others. "Stepdaughters' lives." Sarah's voice faltered, but my dad's cut through the silence like a blade. "Is this why Caitlin never visits her father anymore? Is this what you've been doing to my daughter?" "Tom, I can explain," Sarah stammered, panic spreading across her face. "Explain what?" "How you threatened to destroy Rosa's career. How you've manipulated this family for years." The crowd murmured, their whispers like waves crashing against Sarah's crumbling facade. One by one, the truth spilled out. Madison's fake anxiety attacks, the doctored photos, the sabotaged family events. "Dad, she's lying," Madison shrieked, her voice sharp with desperation. "She's just jealous." "That's enough," Dad's voice thundered. "I heard you both in the kitchen. I heard everything." Sarah made one last desperate attempt. "I did it for our family. These ungrateful stepdaughters needed to be put in their place." But it was over. Security escorted Sarah and Madison out as Sarah's cries about family loyalty echoed through the Sky Lounge. 2 weeks later, karma delivered its final blow. My dad's divorce papers hit Sarah harder than she could have imagined. Last I heard, her country club revoked her membership after learning about her pattern of harassment. Madison, it turns out, had lied about finishing college and was now working retail. As for me, I just made senior flight attendant on international routes. Right now, I'm watching the sunset from my Paris hotel room, planning my next birthday party. My phone buzzes, a notification about Sarah's 15th blocked number trying to reach me. Maybe she wants to apologize or explain. Delete. Block. Au revoir, Sarah. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about breaking free and soaring higher than your abusers ever thought possible. They tried to clip my wings, but instead, they taught me how to fly above their storms. The real gift? I'm finally free to write my own story, and this one has a much better ending. Have you ever had to choose between exposing someone's toxic behavior and keeping the peace in your family? What would you have done in my situation? Played along with Sarah's manipulation to maintain family harmony, or exposed her true nature, knowing it could tear the family apart? I know firsthand how painful these decisions can be. My story might be over, but so many people are still trapped in similar situations, silently suffering under the control of toxic family members. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever dealt with a manipulative family member? How did you handle it? Your experience could help someone else find the strength to stand up for themselves. If you want to hear more stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding your power, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Each story here is about rising above the darkness and discovering your strength. Let's support each other through these challenging journeys, because sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, a 29-year-old marketing executive at Parker & Brooks. My life seemed perfect on paper: a great job, a handsome husband, and a sleek downtown condo. But appearances can be deceiving. Let me tell you how my dream life spiraled into a nightmare. Don't worry though, I got my revenge in the end. It started the day James handed me my prenatal vitamins, his eyes twinkling. "Have you told your mother about the baby yet?" he asked casually. "Yes," I replied, smiling. She cried happy tears for an hour on FaceTime. She's already planning to fly in from Oregon next month. Well, James said, slipping into his usual tone of superiority, "My mother will want to throw you a proper society baby shower. The Bennett name carries certain expectations." I tried not to roll my eyes. After 2 years of marriage, I was used to hearing about the almighty Bennett legacy. James was thriving at his law firm, and yes, we lived a charmed life. But his family? That was another story entirely. Speaking of his family, Diana Bennett, my mother-in-law, had left 3 voicemails about Sunday dinner. "Did she pick somewhere nice this time?" I asked. "Oh, you know Diana," James said, grinning. "Only the most expensive restaurant in town." She also mentioned discussing proper prenatal care. Again. My best friend Linda had already warned me over lunch that day. "Your mother-in-law is way too involved," she said, biting into her salad. "Yesterday, she called our office asking about your work schedule." Classic Diana. Since announcing my pregnancy, she'd been dropping by unannounced, always with that polished channel smile and a backhanded comment about my humble roots. "Darling," she cooed, perching on my desk, "I'm just concerned. In our circles, most women focus on family after marriage, especially with a baby on the way. James needs a proper home life." Her daughter, Emma, my snide sister-in-law, was no better. "Must be nice having a career to fall back on," she'd sneered at last week's family dinner. Some of us were raised to prioritize family. And then there was Robert, my father-in-law. The man built half the luxury condos in the city, but couldn't muster the courage to stand up to his wife. He just sat there at family gatherings, hiding behind his whiskey glass, silent as ever. "Kelly, sweetie," Diana said during dinner one evening, "I've been thinking about your situation. Perhaps it's time to consider a more suitable neighborhood. The Bennett hair can't be raised in that starter home of yours." "Mom, we love our place," James protested weakly. "Of course you do, darling," Diana replied smoothly. "But Kelly's background might not have exposed her to the proper social requirements. I'm only trying to help." I squeezed my water glass, forcing a smile. 2 years of these subtle jabs were wearing me down. Just yesterday, Diana had accidentally forwarded me an email chain discussing how new money families don't understand old money traditions. "The baby shower will be at the country club," Diana announced later that evening. "I've already started the guest list minus 300 of our closest friends." Linda caught my eye across the table, her look saying "I told you so." The interference was getting worse, and I had a sinking feeling this was only the beginning. But the final straw came at James's birthday party. "It's just a few dishes, Kelly," Diana said in her sugary sweet tone, gesturing toward a mountain of dirty plates. "The doctor did say you need more exercise during pregnancy." "I've been following my doctor's exercise plan," I replied evenly, my patience hanging by a thread. Now," Diana said, waving off my protest. "Don't be difficult. The help called in sick, and someone needs to maintain our standards. You understand, coming from your background. 5 months pregnant, I stood at the industrial sink in the Bennett's mansion, scrubbing 40 guests' worth of fine china, my back aching. James appeared in the doorway, champagne glass in hand. "Mom, maybe we should just leave the dishes for tomorrow," he said half-heartedly. "James, darling," Kelly offered to help. "Didn't you, dear?" Diana said, her smile razor-sharp. I hadn't, but James just shrugged. "That's just how Mom is, babe. Don't make a fuss." I glanced out the kitchen window. I could see Emma smirking from across the room, phone raised. Later, Linda texted me. "Mindy, have you seen what your SIL posted?" I opened the link, my stomach sinking. Emma had recorded me scrubbing dishes and captioned it, "Cinderella's Midnight Workout." The likes and laughing emojis poured in. The next day, Linda dropped another bomb. "You need to hear this," she said, pulling me aside. "I overheard Diana at the country club yesterday. She was telling everyone you trapped James with the pregnancy for his money." My hands trembled as I pulled up my emails. There it was, an email accidentally forwarded to me. It was meant for James. "Darling, I've spoken with our family lawyer. Given Kelly's common background, it's crucial to protect our assets. The house must be in your name only, and about her job. A Bennett wife's priority should be family." That night at dinner, Diana wasn't subtle. "Kelly, the ladies at the club are concerned," she said, her tone dripping with Fox concern. "A working mother in our circle, what will people think?" "I love my job, Diana," I replied, struggling to keep calm. "Love doesn't maintain social standing, dear. James needs a wife who understands her role." "I don't see how my job—" "Perhaps if you'd been raised with proper values, you'd understand," Diana interrupted smoothly. "James, explain to your wife about our family's expectations." James stared at his plate, then mumbled, "Mom's right about appearances, Kelly." Before I could respond, Linda, invited under the guise of family bonding, spoke up. "Kelly's one of our top executives. Our clients adore her." "How quaint," Diana said with a tight smile. "But surely a woman in her condition should focus on more important things." My blood pressure, already flagged as elevated at my last checkup, spiked. I felt a sharp pang in my abdomen as Diana continued. "Speaking of your condition," she said, her voice dropping conspiratorially, "the club's board members' wives are quite concerned about certain rumors." "What rumors?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Well, darling, people do talk about sudden pregnancies and hasty marriages. Not that I encourage gossip, of course." I gripped the table's edge to steady myself. Across the room, Emma smirked, no doubt recording my humiliation for her next post. "James," I whispered, pleading, "please." But he only poured another drink, avoiding my gaze. "Mom's just looking out for our family name, Kelly. Try to understand." The room spun slightly, and I knew this wasn't just about their petty jabs anymore. This was about survival. Later, over coffee with Linda, I laid it all out. "Every word, every email, every post, I'm saving it all," I said, scrolling through my phone. "Look what Emma posted last night." Linda leaned in, her face twisting with disgust as she read Emma's latest caption. "When your gold-digging SIL thinks she can handle the Bennett lifestyle." 200 likes, she muttered. "Screenshot it." "Already done," I said. "And you won't believe what I found while helping Diana with her charity gala paperwork." I pulled up photos on my phone. Fake donation receipts. Hundreds of them. Linda's eyes widened. "Girl, look at these emails I got from accounting. Diana's been calling HR weekly, hinting you're unfit for your position." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a message from Catherine, Diana's former daughter-in-law. "Meet me at Riverside Cafe. There's so much you need to know." Catherine looked drained when I arrived, but her resolve was clear. "They destroyed me, Kelly," she said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "Diana forced me out after she found out I couldn't have children. But I've been watching, documenting. Check the property records. Diana's been using Robert's construction company to flip properties illegally. And those sweet elderly clients she brags about helping, she manipulates them into selling below market value." That night, I tested the waters with James. "James, those investments your mom suggested, they seem risky," I said casually. "Mom knows what she's doing," he replied, not looking up. "I've already transferred our savings. Oh, and I removed you from our joint account. Mom thinks it's safer that way." I smiled tightly, thinking of my secret meeting with Jessica Torres, the ruthless lawyer Linda had recommended. Whatever you think is best, honey. The next day, Diana cornered me in her kitchen. A little bird told me you've been asking questions about our business dealings, she said, her tone icy. Just trying to learn about the family, I replied, my phone recording in my pocket. Let me make this clear, Diana hissed. You're here to provide in here and maintain our social standing. Know your place, or things could get difficult. Click. Another recording saved. By the end of the week, Linda and I had organized everything on encrypted drives. Screenshots of Emma's social media harassment, Diana's fake charity records, property flip documentation, recordings of threats, medical records, HR complaints, and bank statements showing James draining our accounts. The lawyer said this is bigger than family court, I told Linda, my voice low but steady. We're talking tax fraud, elder abuse, illegal property schemes. Kelly, James called the office earlier, Linda warned. He's asking about financial reports. They're getting suspicious. Let them, I replied, resolute. I've got copies of everything. Catherine's been helping me track down more of Diana's elderly victims. 3 have already given statements. My phone lit up with another email from Diana. Darling, I've taken the liberty of declining your promotion for you. A Bennett wife doesn't need career advancement. I saved the email to my ever-growing file. One more piece for the case. How's the nursery planning going? James asked that night, oblivious as ever. Perfect, I said with a smile, thinking of the separate bank account Jessica helped me set up and the airtight legal case I was building. Everything was falling right into place. Breaking news. Bennett real estate empire under federal investigation. I read the headline while cradling my newborn daughter, Lily, in the hospital. The anonymous tips had worked. Diana's license had been suspended, pending a federal investigation into elder exploitation. Linda burst into the room, squealing. And you won't believe what happened to Emma. The video of her mocking you went viral at her office. HR fired her for workplace bullying. Her termination letter is making the rounds. The hits kept coming. Diana screeched through the phone a week later. How dare you keep my granddaughter from me? Like you kept those elderly clients' money from them? I shot back calmly. The real estate board seems very interested in that. Jessica, my lawyer, called shortly after. The IRS found the fake charitable donations. They're auditing everything. Robert's construction company is under investigation for illegal property flips, and James's law firm. They're cutting ties. Can't risk the association. Kelly, please, James begged during our divorce proceedings. My career is ruined. I'm moving to a smaller firm. We can work this out. Like you worked out emptying our joint account? I replied. The judge was particularly interested in those records. The settlement was better than I'd hoped. Full custody of Lily, substantial child support, and the downtown condo. The Bennett's financial fraud had made them desperate to settle quietly. 5 years flew by. Lily was now a happy kindergartner, her laughter filling the spaces once weighed down by Bennett drama. I had climbed the ladder to executive vice president, thriving in my career. Did you see this? Linda asked one afternoon, showing me her phone. Diana's company had filed for bankruptcy, buried under 3 class action lawsuits from former clients. Emma's corporate career was in tatters. She was now folding sweaters at a retail job in the mall. Robert had lost his construction company to federal investigators, and James? He was barely scraping by at a strip mall law firm. James tried one last time during a custody exchange. Just meet with them, he pleaded. Mom's sorry, we all are. I bent down to help Lily with her coat. Save it. Lily, say goodbye to Daddy, I said, ignoring James. We've got dance class to get to. Diana attempted to reach out through mutual friends. Her messages were all the same. The past is the past. We're family. I deleted them without a second thought. The woman who made me wash dishes while pregnant tried to destroy my career and spread vicious rumors wasn't family. She was just another toxic person who learned the hard way that karma comes for everyone. Mommy, can we get ice cream? Lily asked, her ballet slippers swinging from her backpack. Of course, baby, I said, smiling. Let's celebrate. Mommy just landed another big account. As we walked hand in hand, I thought of Diana's foreclosed mansion, Emma's retail uniform, and James's damaged reputation. I hadn't just survived their cruelty, I thrived. No dramatic confrontations, no messy scenes. Just careful documentation and letting their own actions catch up to them. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna, a 33-year-old software developer who thought I'd marry into the perfect family. Spoiler alert, I couldn't have been more wrong. My mom, Janet, is my rock. She's the strongest person I know. She beat cancer while juggling 3 jobs just to put me through college. One of those jobs was cleaning houses, and I couldn't be prouder of her. Now, she runs her own small cleaning business, offering flexible jobs to women who need them. That's my mom, always turning her struggles into ways to help others. When I first met my mother-in-law, Victoria, at their sprawling mansion in Greenwich, I thought she was just a little particular. Your mom must be so proud you've moved up in the world, Victoria said, flashing a polished smile. Actually, she's my inspiration. She built her business from the ground up, I replied. How quaint. Everyone has to start somewhere, I suppose, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. Though some of us were fortunate enough to start at the top, I should have recognized the red flags then. My husband, James, isn't like his mother. Babe, don't let her get to you, he'd say after one of her cutting remarks. Mom can be particular. She did the same thing to my college girlfriend because her dad was just a dentist. James' sister, Emma, was more direct. Oh, that's just how she is about status, Emma told me over lunch. Nothing's ever good enough. She made my best friend cry at my sweet 16 because her dress was off the rack. Does she treat everyone like they're beneath her? I asked. Just wait for the family gatherings, Emma replied with a sigh. That's when she really shines. Last Christmas, she made our cousin's wife serve drinks because she used to bartend in college. I vented to my mom about it over Sunday brunch. Honey, some people are so empty inside, they need to make others feel small just to feel big, she said, her voice steady as ever. I just want things to work out. James is great, and his dad, Robert, seems nice enough. Robert's nice, but spineless, Emma said when I mentioned it the next day. Mom controls everything. Parties, charities, their entire social circle. She even picks out his clothes and tells him who he can golf with. How do you handle it? I asked. I moved 3 states away, Emma said, stirring her coffee nervously. But now that you're here, she hesitated. Just watch your back. Victoria has a way of making problems disappear. My last serious boyfriend, he got a dream job offer in Singapore after Mom decided he wasn't Miller material. I brushed it off, determined to focus on my new life with James. We were happy in our little bubble, but Victoria's perfect family parties were impossible to avoid. James, sweetheart, the Memorial Day gathering is coming up, Victoria announced over dinner one evening. Anna, dear, do try to dress appropriately this time. Those Target dresses you favor are better suited to casual outings. My clothes are fine, Victoria, I replied firmly. I dress professionally for my job at a major tech company. Of course they're fine for your usual circles, but we have standards to maintain. The Vanderbilts will be there, and you know how they talk. James squeezed my hand under the table, and I squeezed back, neither of us realizing how that gathering would change everything. Just be yourself, my mom told me when I called her that night, tears in my eyes. If she can't appreciate you, that's her loss. You're a successful woman with a good heart. If only I'd known then what Victoria had planned for that party. I was still trying to play nice, still hoping to be accepted into a family that looked so perfect on the outside. But sometimes the prettiest facades hide the ugliest truths. The Miller family's facade was about to crack wide open. The Memorial Day party was in full swing at their estate, with champagne flowing and guests mingling around the garden fountain. When Victoria approached me at the Memorial Day party, she carried something behind her back. Her smile was as polished as ever, but there was a glint of malice in her eyes. Oh, Anna dear, I have just the thing for you, she said sweetly, drawing the attention of the nearby guests. Slowly, she revealed what she was holding. A stack of cleaning rags, neatly folded and tied with a ribbon, as if they were some sort of prize. The chatter around us died instantly. Since your mother was so experienced in this area, she began, her voice dripping with mock sincerity, I thought you might help ensure everything stays spotless during the party. It's in your blood after all. My hands trembled as I stared at her, barely able to process what I was hearing. Excuse me? Well, she continued, unbothered by the growing tension, your mother did spend years scrubbing toilets, didn't she? Even during her unfortunate medical situation. Such dedication to menial work is admirable. Before I could find my voice, James rushed over. Mom, what are you doing? Just trying to make Anna feel useful, darling, she said, her tone so saccharine it made my stomach churn. We all know she's more comfortable with domestic tasks. Emma appeared at my side, her face a mask of anger. You've gone too far, Mother. I'm simply acknowledging her heritage, Victoria replied with feigned innocence. Not everyone can be born into proper society. The words pierced through me like daggers, but I stood tall, my voice rising to match the fury in my chest. My mother beat cancer while keeping me in school, I said firmly. She built a successful business from nothing. What exactly have you built, Victoria? Victoria's smile faltered, replaced by a flash of fury. How dare you speak to me that way in my own home? She turned to James. Are you just going to stand there and let her insult me? Stop it, Mom. You're embarrassing yourself, James snapped. Robert. Victoria shrieked, turning to her husband, who was loitering nearby with a drink in hand. Come control your son. Robert wandered over, looking more annoyed than concerned. Now, everyone calm down, he said, waving his free hand lazily. I'm sure Victoria meant no harm. No harm? James said, his voice sharp. She just insulted my wife and her mother in front of everyone. She's simply concerned about appearances, Robert mumbled, avoiding his wife's glare. Like she was concerned when she sabotaged Emma's engagement, I shot back. The crowd gasped audibly, and all eyes turned to Victoria. Her face turned ashen, her poise cracking. Who told you about that? She hissed. I did, Emma said, stepping forward. Her voice was calm, but her hands were clenched into fists. I told her everything about Thomas's mysterious job offer, about all your so-called interventions over the years. Victoria's composure shattered. Those decisions were for the good of this family. No, Mother, Emma retorted, her voice cold. They were for your ego. Victoria turned to the gathered crowd, her desperation showing. Everyone, please excuse this unfortunate display. Some people simply don't understand our ways. Your ways? I laughed, unable to hold back anymore. You mean manipulation and cruelty. Victoria's face hardened, and she turned to a nearby staff member. Security, she barked, her voice sharp. Please escort my daughter-in-law out. She's clearly had too much champagne. I met her glare head-on. I haven't had a single drink, Victoria, but keep trying to spin this. You've just shown everyone exactly who you are. James took my hand, his jaw tight with anger. We're leaving, he said. But this isn't over. Victoria's voice rose in panic. If you leave with her, don't bother coming back. Gladly, James replied, his voice steady. I choose my wife. As we turned to leave, Emma stepped forward. I'm done too, Mother. Enjoy your perfect little world, alone. We walked out together, leaving Victoria standing frozen, still clutching those ridiculous cleaning rags. Around her, the guests whispered, her carefully crafted image crumbling in front of the very people she had worked so hard to impress. But this was just the beginning. I didn't know it at the time, but Emma was sitting on information that would bring Victoria's entire empire crashing down. After the disastrous Memorial Day party, Emma invited us to her apartment. As soon as we sat down, she opened her laptop, her face a mix of determination and anger. Remember when I worked at Dad's company last summer? She said, clicking through folders. I found something interesting in the accounting records. What kind of records? I leaned in, my heart racing. Emma turned the screen toward us. Look at these transfers. Mom's been siphoning money from Dad's company through fake charity organizations she created. James's eyes widened as he stared at the numbers. $500,000. Where's it all going? Emma snorted. Designer clothes, secret spa trips, and get this, paying private investigators to dig up dirt on anyone who marries into the family. She hired private investigators? I asked, stunned. Oh, it gets worse. Remember my ex, Thomas? She paid his boss to offer him that job in Singapore. She wanted him gone because he wasn't Miller material. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from my boss popped up. We received an anonymous email claiming you stole proprietary code. My stomach dropped. You've got to be kidding me. She's trying to ruin my career now. Classic move, Emma said, pulling up more documents. She did the same thing to Dad's secretary last year when she thought the woman was getting too friendly with him. James was pacing the room, running his hands through his hair. We need to take this to Dad. Wait, I said, checking my phone again. A text from my mom appeared. Victoria's been posting horrible things about me online. Fake accounts calling me a gold digger who faked cancer for money. Emma's jaw tightened. She's been doing that for years. Look at this. She opened another folder filled with screenshots. Fake reviews tanking businesses, burner phones she uses to harass people, even anonymous complaints filed against family members. James pointed at a bank statement on the screen. She's draining Dad's retirement accounts for all of this. Before we could process the full scope of it, my mom called. Someone just contacted all my cleaning clients, telling them I'm under investigation for theft, she said, her voice trembling. That's it, Emma snapped, grabbing her keys. We're taking this to Michael. Michael was Dad's business partner, and he'd already been suspicious of Victoria's spending for months. He'll help us, Emma said confidently. These fake charities are using the company's tax ID numbers. It's all fraud. Just then, James's phone buzzed. Mom's trying to get Dad to make me sign a postnup, he said, reading the text aloud. Says she doesn't trust me with the family money. More like she doesn't want anyone digging into where the money's going, Emma said bitterly, closing her laptop. She's getting sloppy, but we need to be careful. Too late for careful, I set my voice steady. She's been destroying lives for years. It's time to end it. At Victoria's annual charity gala, our carefully constructed world began to crumble. The night started as usual, lavish decorations, expensive wine, and a crowd of socialites hanging on her every word. Victoria stood at the podium, accepting yet another award for her so-called philanthropic work, when Michael interrupted. I have some questions about the Miller Family Foundation's finances, he said, standing in the middle of the crowd. Victoria froze, her smile faltering. This isn't the time or place, Michael, she said sharply. Actually, it's the perfect place, he countered. Would you like to explain where the $500,000 went? The room went silent as Robert stepped forward, confusion etched across his face. What's he talking about, Victoria? Nothing, dear, she said quickly, her voice trembling. Just a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, Emma said, stepping into the room with a stack of papers, is that we trusted you all these years. Victoria's composure cracked as she looked around for support. Security, she barked. Remove them. They won't help you, Michael said, holding up his phone. The FBI is already reviewing the evidence of your embezzlement. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Victoria gripped the podium, her knuckles white. Robert, darling, don't listen to them. Like you didn't want me to listen when the secretary tried to warn me about missing funds. Robert's voice was cold. Or when our accountant quit suddenly last year. I did everything for this family, Victoria cried. You mean like hiring people to destroy my mom's business? I stepped forward, my voice steady. Or creating fake social media accounts to harass people? Victoria's mask shattered completely. You gold-digging little. Careful, mother, James said, cutting her off. The reporters you invited are still here, and they're still recording. The whispers around us grew louder as her precious social circle began backing away. You can't prove anything, Victoria spat, desperation in her eyes. Actually, Michael said, projecting documents onto the screen behind her, we can prove everything. Robert stared at the evidence, his face pale. Our retirement accounts, empty? I needed that money. Victoria pleaded. For what? Emma demanded. To ruin lives, to buy silence, to destroy anyone who threatened your perfect image. The murmurs turned to open disdain as guests started heading for the exits. Robert, please, Victoria begged, reaching for him. Save it for your lawyer, he said coldly, stepping away. I want a divorce. And the board wants your resignation, Michael added. Effective immediately. Victoria tried one last time. I can explain everything. Like you explained away Thomas, Emma said, her voice breaking. Or Olivia's restaurant, or every other life you've ruined? Comments for part 2. I did it because I love you, Victoria cried. No, James said, wrapping his arm around me. You did it because you're toxic, and we're done. As the police arrived, Victoria's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Her social circle abandoned her, her reputation shattered, and her empire of lies exposed. Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Wan, a 28-year-old marketing executive at Thompson & Partners. Today, I want to share how my brother's wedding turned into a nightmare and uncovered years of toxic behavior within our family. Life hasn't been easy for us. When our mom passed away from cancer, I was 16 and my brother Lucas was 20. Dad worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, so I stepped up to help raise Lucas. We became incredibly close during those years. Natally, I got accepted to Stanford. I still remember the excitement in Lucas's voice that day. Even now, I can feel the pride and determination I felt as I made the decision to use my college fund to pay for his education. No regrets. It was worth every penny to see him graduate. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Then Caroline Brooks walked into our lives. Lucas met her at a charity event, and I still remember our first dinner together at LeBlanc. So Natalie, Lucas tells me you're in marketing. How quaint, Caroline had said with a condescending smile. I suppose not everyone is cut out for the pressures of real estate. It was the first red flag, but I ignored it for Lucas's sake. Soon the subtle digs became constant. Darling, you simply must update your wardrobe. Those outlet store pieces aren't doing you any favors. Even my best friend Rachel noticed. Girl, did you hear the way she talked to you at the engagement party? Like being single is some kind of disease. And David, my colleague, raised an eyebrow after meeting Caroline at the office holiday party. Your future sister-in-law asked if I was your supervisor. When I said no, she literally rolled her eyes and said, "Figures." But none of that compared to meeting her mother, Martha Brooks. Picture the stereotype of a wealthy snob, then multiply it by 10. Lucas, dear, Martha cooed at a family dinner. Are you sure you want to live so close to that neighborhood? We could help you find something more suitable in our area. Wedding planning was an absolute nightmare. Whenever I tried to help, Caroline brushed me off. Oh, don't worry your pretty little head, Natalie. Events like this require a certain expertise. Then, at the engagement party, her brother James pulled me aside while the guests cheered a champagne toast. I'm sorry about how they're treating you, he said, his voice low and apologetic. They do this to everyone they think is beneath them. Thanks, but I can handle it, I replied, though my confidence was starting to crack. You should know what you're dealing with, he insisted. They ruined my best friend's career just because he dated my cousin and wasn't our kind. The worst part? Lucas didn't or wouldn't see it. Natalie, you're just not used to their way of doing things, he'd say. Caroline comes from a different world. Give her time. If only I'd known what was coming. The week before the wedding was brutal. Caroline found excuses to exclude me from every bridesmaid meeting, rescheduling without notice. Finally, during the rehearsal dinner, she delivered the ultimate blow. Oh, Natalie, didn't Lucas tell you? We had to make some last-minute changes to the wedding party. Too many bridesmaids would look cluttered in the photos. I turned to Lucas, hoping he'd defend me, but he looked away. Caroline, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm his only sister. Darling, we've discussed this. My sorority sisters already coordinated their schedules. It's simply too late to change anything now. The wedding day came, and I plastered on my best fake smile. I helped Lucas with his tie, just like I had for his graduation. You look beautiful, Natalie, he said quietly. I'm sorry about the bridesmaid thing. Hey, I replied, forcing a smile. It's your day. Let's make it special. The ceremony went off without a hitch, but the reception brought the final blow. During the toasts, Caroline stood up, champagne glass in hand, her designer dress probably worth more than my rent. I want to thank everyone for coming today, she began, her voice dripping with sweetness. And a special thanks to Lucas's sister, Natalie, who's basically been the family servant all these years. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. My stomach tightened as she continued. I mean, who gives up their own future to serve others? No wonder she's still single, too busy playing mommy to actually build a life. The room fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to me. My cheeks burned as I sat frozen, humiliated and furious. Before I could process the humiliation, Lucas grabbed the microphone, his voice steady but seething. Actually, Caroline, let me tell everyone exactly what my sister did when our mom died. The room fell silent. Natalie gave up her college fund, every penny she'd saved since she was 12, so I could go to Stanford. She worked 3 jobs while finishing high school to help Dad keep our house. She's not a servant. She's the reason I'm standing here today. Caroline's face turned white. Lucas, darling, I was just joking. Lucas didn't let her finish. While you were spending Daddy's money at prep school, my sister was helping me with calculus homework at midnight after her shift at the diner. She's not single because she was playing mommy. She's single because she puts others before herself. Something you clearly know nothing about. Caroline stormed out of the room, her white dress trailing behind her, while gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Martha shot up, waving her hands frantically. Everyone please, my daughter is simply overwhelmed. Natalie, dear, you know how emotional brides can get. Though really, airing family finances at a wedding is rather uncouth. Her attempt to spin the situation fell flat. Guests began shaking their heads, whispering about the scene they'd just witnessed. Later, as the reception wound down, James approached me in a quiet corner. He pulled out his phone, his expression grim. Listen to this, he said, pressing play. Caroline's voice filled the air, venomous and smug. Once we're married, we'll gradually phase her out. She's so clingy with Lucas, it's pathetic. Mom's already found us a house in California. Martha's voice followed. Perfect, darling. We'll make sure Lucas sees how his sister is holding him back. A few well-placed comments about her dependency issues should do it. I felt sick to my stomach, but oddly relieved. Finally, their true colors were on full display. There's more, James said, his tone somber. A lot more. And I think it's time everyone knew the truth about my sister and mother. 2 days later, Lucas called me, his voice breaking. Caroline's giving me an ultimatum, he said. She wants me to cut you out of my life, or she's leaving. She claims you've always been jealous of her. I stayed calm, the recordings echoing in my mind. What do you want to do, Lucas? I don't know anymore. Everything's falling apart. She maxed out our joint credit card on a shopping spree after the reception. That's when James dropped the first bomb. He emailed me court documents. Caroline had been married before, to a wealthy man in Boston, and she never divorced him. Natalie, you won't believe what I found. My best friend Rachel burst into my office, waving a stack of printouts. Caroline pulled this exact same stunt with 3 other families. She finds successful men with close family ties, drives wedges between them, and bleeds them dry. Even David, my colleague, had been dating through social media. Look at this, he said, holding up his phone. These posts from 2019, she's wearing an engagement ring in Miami. But it's not from your brother or her first husband. There's a whole trail of destroyed relationships. As Caroline unraveled, she weaponized Instagram, posting cryptic captions like, "Some people pretend to be loving sisters while secretly sabotaging your marriage." Then came the ultimate downfall. Martha's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. The SEC launched an investigation into Brooks Realty for major fraud. James discovered they'd been running a Ponzi scheme through their luxury real estate developments. The feds are looking at everything, James told me over coffee. Mom's been cooking the books for years. Caroline knew, and she was using company money to fund her shopping addiction. Caroline's desperation peaked when she tried to gaslight Lucas about his own memories. Baby, remember how Natalie tried to talk you out of college? She wanted to keep you dependent on her. But her lies couldn't save her when her past caught up with her. Lucas received a LinkedIn message from Thomas Bennett, Caroline's ex-husband. Your sister called me. I should have warned you sooner, the message read. Caroline did the same thing to my family. First, she isolated me from my sister, claiming she was trying to control my life. Then she drained my accounts. She told everyone my sister was spreading lies about her. By the time Lucas realized everything Kate had said was true, it was too late. Caroline had already moved on to her next target. She hadn't even bothered to file their divorce papers. Lucas forwarded me the message from Thomas Bennett with a single line. I'm so sorry I didn't listen. I watched silently as Caroline's world crumbled around her. Her real estate license fell under review amidst the fraud investigation. Her once loyal social media followers turned against her as more victims stepped forward. But I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma was doing all the work. That night, Rachel came over with a bottle of wine. Girl, are you okay? Actually, yeah. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. Sometimes the best revenge is letting toxic people destroy themselves. But the real satisfaction came later. The headline flashed across my phone. Brooks Realty CEO arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Martha's mugshot was everywhere. Gone were the designer suits and her trademark superior smirk, replaced by an orange jumpsuit and smeared mascara. The fallout was swift and merciless. Thomas Bennett went public with his story. She was already married when she married Lucas, he revealed. Can you believe it? Whispers in exclusive country clubs turned into roars. Caroline's carefully curated image shattered like cheap glass. Then Lucas called me, his voice trembling. Natally, she took out loans in my name, credit cards, personal loans, everything. She forged my signature. I'm looking at almost $300,000 in debt. Caroline's final desperate move was as predictable as it was pathetic. Natalie orchestrated this whole thing. She ranted to anyone who would listen. She planted evidence, manipulated James, turned my own brother against me. Lucas's lawyer called it a slam dunk annulment case. She was legally married to someone else. The judge ruled. This marriage was never valid. And just like that, it was over. Caroline's social media meltdown was legendary. A 30-minute, unhinged rant accusing me of everything from theft to corporate espionage. The real estate board wasn't amused. Her license was revoked. 5 years flew by. Life moved on. I'm now the marketing director at a Fortune 500 company. My team's latest campaign just won an industry award. Dating? Sure, when I want to. But I'm not chasing it. My life is already full. As for Lucas, he found himself again. He met Sarah, a kind, grounded kindergarten teacher at a volunteer event. No drama, no designer labels, just real love. Their backyard wedding last summer was everything a wedding should be: simple, joyful, and heartfelt. Looking back, I sometimes wonder, what would you have done in my position? When Caroline hit rock bottom and sent that desperate message asking for help, would you have given her a second chance? Would you have believed she changed? Or would you have stood firm, like I did, knowing that some bridges are better left burned? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had toxic people come back into your life after karma finally caught up to them? Did you forgive them or stand your ground? Hi everyone, I'm Olivia Jackson, a second-grade teacher at Riverside Elementary. 5 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I married George Martinez, a corporate lawyer who seemed like the ideal partner. Together we were blessed with beautiful twin daughters, Yasmin and Crystal, now 4 years old. They're my whole world, filling our home with laughter and creativity. But my perfect life slowly unraveled, thanks to my monster-in-law. It started with little jabs, like during one of Charlotte's infamous surprise visits last month. "Your girls are getting so big, Olivia," she began sweetly. Then her tone shifted. "But I couldn't help noticing Yasmin is wearing the same dress as last week. Don't tell me George isn't providing enough for proper clothes." The implication stung, but I kept my composure. "The girls pick their own outfits, Charlotte. It's important for their independence." "Independence? They're 4, she scoffed. "This is exactly what I was telling George about your unusual parenting methods." At lunch the next day, my best friend Noah, a 5th-grade teacher at my school, noticed my stress. "Charlotte again," he guessed. I sighed. "She's everywhere, no." Yesterday, she reorganized my entire kitchen while I was at work. Apparently, I'm not efficient enough. "That's not normal," Noah said firmly. My sister went through something similar. It didn't end well. When I brought it up with George, his response was dismissive. "She's just being helpful. Mom knows best," he said with a shrug. But Charlotte's meddling wasn't just limited to my parenting. Rumors started circulating around town. "Did you hear what she told Barbara at the grocery store?" Noel asked me one day. "That you're working too much and neglecting your family." I froze. She said what? As if that wasn't bad enough, a week later, I caught her in my bedroom, rummaging through my closet. "These clothes aren't appropriate for a mother," she declared, holding up my favorite dress. "George agrees. You should dress more conservatively." "George doesn't get to decide what I wear, and neither do you," I snapped. "Oh, sweetie," she said with mock sympathy. "A wife should always consider her husband's preferences." I raised him to expect certain standards. That night, George came home late, as usual. When I confronted him, he was defensive. "Mom's just trying to help, Olivia. Why can't you appreciate that?" "She raised me alone, you know." I'm not asking for her help, George, I said, barely keeping my frustration in check. I'm asking for respect in my own home. Maybe if you did things more her way, he started, but I cut him off when I noticed a new house key on his keychain. Did you make a copy of our house key? She might need to check on things when we're not home. It's just easier this way, he replied casually. That night, I lay in bed feeling like a stranger in my own house. But the worst was yet to come. Charlotte started showing up every day after school. One afternoon, I came home to find her rearranging the living room. This furniture layout was blocking the energy flow, she explained. And honestly, these throw pillows. Tacky. As I opened my mouth to respond, my phone buzzed. A bank notification for a large withdrawal from our joint account. Oh, George mentioned he needed extra cash for a work event, Charlotte said, not even looking up. What work event? I demanded. He never mentioned it. Oh, sweetheart, she cooed, he probably didn't want to worry your pretty little head about it. I've been helping him manage the finances. He's always been terrible with money, just like his father. Later that night, I confronted George again. Why is your mother involved in our bank accounts? She's helping out, he said dismissively. She gave me $50,000 last month for an investment opportunity. Investment? Why wasn't I informed? Because you just complicate things, he said. Mom knows what she's doing. The breaking point came during parent-teacher conferences. I was discussing a student's progress when Charlotte stormed into my classroom. There you are, she yelled. How dare you keep my grandchildren from me? They're Martinez blood, not yours. The parent I'd been meeting with looked horrified. Mrs. Jackson, should I come back later? Before I could respond, Charlotte continued. This woman kidnapped my son's children. She's poisoning them against their father. Noel rushed in, drawn by the commotion. Charlotte, you need to leave now, or I'm calling the police. Go ahead, call them, she shouted. Let them know how she's alienating those precious girls from their grandmother. The principal had to escort Charlotte out while she screamed about lawyers and grandparents' rights. I was mortified. I got it all on video, Noel whispered, discreetly showing me his phone. You'll need evidence of this behavior. That evening, while George was working late, again, I found a stack of bank statements in his home office. Multiple accounts I'd never seen before, all managed by Charlotte. Looking for something, George's voice cut through the silence. He stood in the doorway, his expression dark with anger. Care to explain why your mother has access to accounts I didn't even know existed? I demanded, holding up the papers. You're going through my private things now? Mom was right about you. You're becoming unstable. Unstable? I'm not the one hiding money and letting my mother run our marriage. She's worried about the girls' safety, George shot back, his voice rising. She says you've been acting erratic at school. She caused a scene at my workplace, I shouted. She's the one who's erratic. She wouldn't have to check on you if you were a better mother and wife. Maybe if you cooked like her, kept house like her. I'm calling my lawyer, I said, shaking with rage. Mom already spoke to her friend at Thompson and Associates, he said with a smug grin. No lawyer in town will take your case. Face it, Olivia. You're alone in this. Noel's words echoed in my mind. Some people don't show their true nature until they think they have you trapped. This wasn't just meddling anymore. This was a calculated effort to isolate and control me. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I started recording everything. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play too. The truth hit me like a truck the next day. I stopped by George's office to surprise him with lunch. His secretary, Amy, was sitting on his desk, his hands where they shouldn't be. Oh, Olivia, Amy stammered, straightening her skirt. I was just helping George with some filing. Really? On his desk? I asked, my voice icy. It's not what you think, George stammered. Actually, it's exactly what I think, I snapped. Let me guess. Your mother introduced you. Amy respects family values, right? Tradition. Authority? Mothers? I stormed out, only to find Charlotte waiting for me in the parking lot. Finally figured it out, did you? She sneered. Amy's a much better match. She knows her place. That night, Yasmin wet her bed for the first time in 2 years. Grandma says you're sick in the head, Mommy, she whispered. Are you going away? I held her close, my heart breaking. Never, baby. Who told you that? Grandma. She tells everyone at church we need to pray for you. The next day, I was served with papers. Charlotte was suing for grandparents' rights, claiming I was mentally unstable and unfit to parent. "Noah, I need your help," I said, my voice trembling. "This is getting dangerous." "Already on it," he replied. That weekend, we installed security cameras around the house while George was conveniently away on a work retreat with Amy. It didn't take long for Charlotte to slip up. The following Tuesday, the cameras caught her sneaking in, planting prescription bottles in my nightstand. "Found these in Olivia's room," she later told George. "She's been hiding her medication. Who knows what else she's hiding?" Her plan backfired spectacularly when I started digging into George's past. His high school sweetheart reached out after hearing rumors about me. "Charlotte did the same thing to me," she confessed. "Planted things in my car. Spread rumors I was unstable." George believed every word. Then she introduced him to my replacement, his college girlfriend. "What happened to her?" I asked. "Same story, different year. Charlotte always finds a better woman, until they start having opinions of their own." Meanwhile, the twins' nightmares worsened. Crystal clung to me at school drop-off. "Grandma says you're taking us away from Daddy," she sobbed. I knew I had to act fast. I contacted a lawyer in the next town, far enough from Charlotte's reach. "We need everything documented," my lawyer advised. "Every visit, every lie, every penny she's stolen. This isn't just meddling, it's systematic financial and emotional abuse." When George found me packing one night, he blocked the door. "Where do you think you're going?" "Away from you and your mother's sick games," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "Mom says you're having another episode. Maybe we should consider inpatient treatment." "Maybe you should consider growing a spine," I snapped. "The girls need their grandmother." "The girls need therapy because of their grandmother," I shot back. "They're terrified of her." "They're fine," George insisted. Mom says. Mom says. Do you even hear yourself?" I grabbed my pre-packed bags, every detail of my escape meticulously planned. The security footage was backed up, the bank statements copied, the evidence secured. They thought they had me cornered, but they had no idea what was coming. The day I left was just the beginning. I moved in with Noah temporarily while my lawyer built our case. But Charlotte couldn't stand losing control. Late one night, Noah's security cameras caught her breaking into his house. "I'll show them what an unsafe environment looks like," she muttered, pulling a bag of drugs from her purse. Too bad the police were watching the live feed. "Mrs. Martinez, you're under arrest for breaking and entering and attempted evidence planting." And with that, the dominoes started to fall. George's firm launched an audit after Charlotte accidentally copied them on an email about redistributing client funds. "Mrs. Martinez has been forging signatures and embezzling client money for years," the managing partner revealed. "George, we trusted you with our biggest accounts." "Mom was just trying to help with investments," George stammered. "Help? She stole millions. You're fired, and we're pressing charges." As George's professional life crumbled, his sister Sarah came forward. "She destroyed my marriage too," Sarah confessed. "Told everyone I was cheating when she was the one setting my husband up with his coworker." The firm's investigation unearthed even more. Charlotte had been sabotaging George's cases, calling clients to change meeting times, and driving away his biggest accounts. In court, my lawyer laid everything bare: the planted evidence, the financial records, Charlotte's criminal charges, and George's affair. "Your Honor," my lawyer declared, "these children deserve protection from this systematic abuse." The judge agreed. Full custody was granted to me. Charlotte faced fraud charges for her pyramid scheme targeting church members. George, now jobless and disgraced, moved back in with Mommy Dearest, his law career in ruins. A week later, I got the call I'd been waiting for. "Olivia, we'd love to have you as our new head teacher." Months later, George showed up at my school. "Olivia, I'm sorry," he began, his voice heavy with regret. "I see it all now. Mom's sick. She needs help. I needed help. Our daughters needed help when they were crying every night." "Save it," I replied, my tone firm. "Please, can we try again? For the girls?" "The girls are thriving without your toxic influence. They're in therapy, their nightmares are gone, and they're finally happy. Don't destroy that." "But they're my daughters too. You should have thought about that before choosing your mother over their well-being." Goodbye, George. Last week, Charlotte's face appeared in the local paper. Local woman faces prison time for multi-million-dollar fraud. George was quoted defending her, still unable to break free from her control. Meanwhile, I was having dinner with Noah and the girls, celebrating their straight A's. "Mommy, can we get a puppy?" Yasmin asked, her eyes bright and fearless. "Please?" Crystal chimed in, no longer the timid little girl she once was. "Why not?" I smiled. "Our new house has a big yard." Noah squeezed my hand under the table. "You did it, Olivia. You broke the cycle." Looking at my happy, healthy daughters, I knew every struggle had been worth it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free and letting fate handle the rest. The local news still mentions Charlotte's downfall now and then, but I'm too busy living my best life to care. My girls are safe, I'm thriving in my career, and most importantly, we're finally at peace.